Everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Logan, do you mind leading us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the Planning and Zoning Board / local planning agency. It's an advisory board which makes recommendations to the county commissioners who will make the final decision on these items. Items H1, H6, H8, and H12 are LPA items. Items on today's agenda will be heard by the county commission on May 4th. When a motion ends in any kind of a split vote, a roll call vote may be taken to ensure accuracy. As a reminder, each member who makes a motion or a second needs to turn their microphone on so that your voice is on the record. Speakers for the public comment on agenda items will be given 5 minutes. At this time, if any board member has had any ex parte communication regarding any application, please disclose so now. All right, I need a motion for the approval of the P&Z minutes from March 13th, 2023.
So moved.
I got a motion by John, a second by Ron. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Okay, item H1.
Good afternoon, Planning and Zoning Board. Item H1 is Austin and Kailey Mahan request a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use designation from NC to CC. It's account number 22SS00013 for tax account number 3030132 in District 1. There's a companion application to change. Austin and Kailey Mahan request a change of zoning classification from AU to BU2. The account is 22Z00054 for tax account number 3030132, District 1.
Okay, is the applicant here? Sir, if you could come up to the microphone, and if you could get as close as possible so we can hear you. And just state a little bit about what you're looking to do.
Hello, good evening. My name is Austin. This is my wife of 13 years here behind me. We have 2 kids born and raised in Florida or in Brevard County. We're also Brevard County residents ourselves, born and raised. We're here to request that the 0.77 acres of our property be rezoned, as you heard described previously. A little bit about our company and what the company is about. Kind of growing up in Brevard County, my father was very interested in ecotourism and just outdoors, and he instilled a passion for creation and adventure in me. And he ended up buying a company, a kayaking company, in 2004. And since then, the company has grown. We grew up, hanging out on spoil islands and watching the manatee population rebound. It was something I remember kayaking around and wondering if my kids would grow up to actually ever see manatees, and that's something that we're trying to do for the community now, is encourage that passion and instill that sense of adventure. We kind of believe, or we do believe, that by connecting people with nature, we create a better relationship with each other and a better relationship with nature. And in doing so, we'll be better stewards of that creation. As you're well aware, Brevard County waterways they offer a jewel of phenomena. We have bioluminescent creatures, lots of marine wildlife, waterfowl of all sorts. As far as our reputation, our credibility is something that's really important to us. We have over 2,700 reviews on TripAdvisor, maintaining an average of 5 out of 5 stars. So about 2,400 of those reviews are 5 out of 5 stars. And additionally, we have thriving partnerships with the Brevard County Parks Department and also the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, and they can attest to our professionalism and integrity. Coming back to the property in question, we understand that our property is currently zoned as agricultural and residential use. When we were investigating the lot for our purchase, because we have since built a house on the west side of the property. We proactively contacted the Brevard County Planning and Zoning Department about storing our equipment there on the premises. And at that time, we were told that, quote, that shouldn't be an issue, unquote, via email on April 6, 2021. After purchasing and building our home, we again sought to confirm this information before moving our equipment over. Of course, we don't want to move our equipment over and then find out that something didn't work out, because then our company would be homeless. We need a place to store that equipment. At that time, when we reached back out, that was when we were given some different information. We understand that, stuff like that happens. It's okay. Since then, we've worked diligently with the county representatives to determine what an appropriate use and zoning would be for that 0.77 portion of the property. And that's how we find ourselves before you today requesting the BU2 zoning. It's important that we emphasize that our services are rendered at the water's edge. A Day Away does not transport guests. We do not have in-person ticket sales. Sorry, I need to find my spot. Does not transport guests. We do not have in-person ticket sales. The 0.77 acres is strictly used for storing vehicles, kayaks, and related equipment. And for this reason, our outdoor equipment storage we believe will have minimal impact on the neighborhood. And you'll see that as attested on page 4, criteria A in the staff comments. We've installed an 8-foot fence with additional plans to do some aesthetic landscaping to keep the area secure and pleasing. Pulling in and out of the neighborhood, we don't want, not in and out of the neighborhood, but pulling through the area, we don't want, people to be seeing a whole bunch of kayaks, stacked on trailers. So having the 8-foot fence makes it more aesthetically pleasing for that reason. We are committed to taking whatever measures necessary to minimize noise and any other disturbances, and are committed to being responsible neighbors to anyone in the area. We're prepared to work with the county to ensure that all necessary permits and requirements are met, and will maintain open communication with the community to address any concerns or issues that may arise. We believe that rezoning this property would allow us to continue to provide high-quality outdoor experiences for residents and visitors alike, while also supporting the local economy and promoting environmental stewardship. We're proud to be North Brevard natives, and will continue to offer eco-tours to guests from around town and around the world, while caring for our family and community responsibly. We thank you for consideration.
All right. Well, sir, while you're right there, does anyone on the board have any questions for the applicant while he's there? Yes, sir.
You mentioned you got a fence, and you're going to do put some trees and shrubs around there
Yes, sir.
On the outside of the fence?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, sir, hold on one second. Anyone in the audience would like to speak for or against this item? Well, that's good news. All right, seeing that, I bring it back to the board.
I'd like to move for approval.
Second.
We got a motion by Debbie, a second by Logan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I was going to make a motion, and somebody beat me to it. I would like to ask the applicant if he would be willing to add a BDP to his zoning request.
Mr. Chair, if I can just interrupt for a second. So just so you're aware of, this is the two items were read into the record. One was for the future land use, which is item H1. Item H2, the companion rezoning, was also heard. So you were able to discuss those simultaneously, but you will need to make separate motions for each of them. So I just want to make sure that everyone here understands that the motion on the table is for item H1 and item H1 only. If you were to request a BDP, that should be subject to the rezoning request of item H2.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's go back to item H1, and we can hold that thought till H2.
Right.
We had a motion by Debbie, a second by Logan on item H1. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? H1 passed. Now to H2, Mr. Ron, if you want to.
Yes. On the,
A little late. Rob Roberts. I'm supposed to be up there.
Okay.
So he can take a seat up on the dais.
Okay, Mr. Ron, back to your BDP on item H2.
right, on the zoning request, I would like to ask the applicant if he
Mr.
would.
Ron, could you get a little closer to your mic, please, sir?
Yes, sir, would you be willing to add a BDP that says you'll only use, the only BU2 use of this property will be for outdoor storage of products related to your business? I mean, you can have all the BU1 uses, but the problem that I have is a BU2 is a very wide open zoning, and there's some businesses that I frankly would not like to see in MIMS. And so I would like to restrict it so that you can have all the BU1 uses you want, but for BU2, it's only the outdoor storage of products related to your business. Would you be willing to do that?
Can I get a brief explanation of what the first acronym is that you used? I just
I'm
want to
sorry.
make sure that when I say yes, it's yes.
Sure. What a BDP stands for is a binding development plan. It is a legal document that gets recorded and gets attached to the rezoning when it goes in front of the board. When it goes in front of the board, and it's attached to your zoning. So it's a voluntary agreement between you and the board, and certain restrictions that the board and you agree upon. So it sounds like Mr. Barcher is requesting that a BDP in this circumstance would only allow you B1 uses, and in the BU2 uses only outdoor storage of kayaks and of that. So like I said, it's a voluntary an agreement. We can get you a copy of the template for you to review, and that way you can have that for the board meeting.
Based upon my understanding of the way it's been described, absolutely 100%.
Okay, thank you very much. In that case, I move that we recommend approval of the zoning change with that BDP.
Okay, we'll hold that motion for discussion.
We have an objection on the neighborhood in the area that has been handed out to us. And they just don't want, they're not against what you want to do, but they don't want their neighborhood entrance on, I think it's the E.R. Smith Road. So in that binding developers agreement, would you also restrict it only to the access of the commercial property?
That's our intent, 100%.
Okay, if you add those two components, then I'm all in favor of it.
That's wonderful. And you're, just to clarify, I want to make sure I understand you correctly. You're specifying that you don't want any commercial vehicles moving past that property of .77, and that
Correct.
those vehicles would only be located or traveling and transporting, moving up to that and not any further into the neighborhood.
Right, the objection is only, you know, that
Absolutely.
they want to keep the flavor of their neighborhood.
As residents of the neighborhood, that's part of the reason why we love the neighborhood. So
Okay.
we want to preserve that as well, and are totally happy and would only plan to do that. So I agree with that 100%.
Mr. Chairman, with that, I've closed all my questions.
Do I? Yes, sir.
Are you going to be doing any repair work on the kayaks if they're damaged by the users?
Unfortunately, people do like to drag kayaks occasionally, and at that point, they're no longer kayaks. They kind of turn into submarines. We do some minor welding to them and some repairs to those kayaks on the premises in order to ensure that, they're in good working order for our customers.
Then I'd like to ask staff, welding on that property, would that be allowed?
It's not a fabrication welding. It's more like using just to clarify, it's more like using a heat gun.
It's a plastic weld.
Plastic welding, that's correct.
FRP, fiber reinforced plastic. I do it myself.
In your backyard?
You've been there.
Wouldn't that be covered under the BU1?
They could do fabrication in BU1 or BU2.
Correct.
Okay.
So do I need to get Ron to readjust his motion to add?
I was going to do that just
Okay.
so Jen doesn't hit me in the back of the head and make sure that I understand that the motion that's on the table is for approval with subject to a BDP to limit the use of BU1 uses and only the BU2 use of outdoor storage of kayaks, and limiting the access to Highway 1 only.
And Mr. applicant, are you okay with all that?
Just, you said access to Highway 1 only, so that would mean no pulling, so just to specify, we have entrance, a gap in the fence on the US 1 side. We also have a gap in the fence on the ER Smith side. We did that technically just in case there's an emergency. You have two modes of leaving the property. Just to clarify, are you saying that we would only be entering and exiting through the US 1?
That's my understanding of what this board is asking for.
So I was under the understanding the board was asking for only entering on the ER Smith or US 1 side from the property toward.
Exit, if you can use that only as an egress exit, that would be fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. I just want to clarify so that
What they're saying is they don't want trucks and
in their neighborhood.
transports entering in. If you're coming out and leaving on an egress, that would be easy.
Okay. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree to that.
Does that make sense, Jennifer?
Oh.
If you use the word exit egress on that roadway, that would be fine.
So just an additional point we want to make, that our house is the first house and that property is the first property in the neighborhood. And so there's not anyone in front of us that we would be passing.
So just so I understand, the access should be limited to ingress, egress from US 1 and egress from ER Smith only. Right. So in layman's term, you can go in and out on US 1 and just out on ER Smith.
That's my understanding.
Absolutely, we agree to that.
Okay.
And we're going to hold that as Ron's motion. Okay, we got a motion by Ron, a second by Robert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, item H2.
H3?
I'm sorry. H3, I even marked out H2.
Item H3 is Matthew and Christine Morak, request change of zoning classification from AU to RR-1. It's application number 23Z00010 for tax account number 2004738, located in District 1.
Okay, and is the applicant here? Yes, sir. Please come on up and.
Moving a little slower these days.
Well, she's got a reason now, but you don't.
You got a dope though, right? You got a
That's
dope.
it.
So.
Sir, if you could state your name and address for the record, and I think I missed that, Jeff, on that last applicant, the name and address for the record.
You got the name, but no address.
Okay, if you get as close as you can so we can hear you.
Yes, sir. It's Matthew Morak, and our address is 2972 Eddington Drive, Titusville, Florida 32780.
A little bit about what you're wanting to do, Mr. Matthew.
Yes, sir. So my wife and I, my beautiful wife Christine here, I heard that was a trend, so I wanted to continue it. I don't want to get in trouble. My beautiful wife and I have decided to make North Brevard our forever home. And so we acquired a parcel of land, subject in your notes there. And actually, I was able to convince my parents to move down as well, to make Brevard their forever home as well. And we purchased the lot next to them. I think you'll find we're probably one of the very few in our age group to want to get as close to our parents as possible. And so this would accomplish that. And so in purchasing this land, it is currently zoned as an AU property. However, the property is 2.22 acres, and there's a requirement in that area on that side of US 1 to have 2.5 acres to build a single-family home, which brings us here today. And our plans are to build just a single-family home to raise our family. We have our third baby here with her accompanying, and we have 2 others as well, ranging from the ages of, well, our daughter's about to turn 4, our son is 2, and then we have a newborn on the way. So again, that proximity to family is quite important for us and our sustainability. So yes, we would like to build a single family home, no additional buildings or homes on there as well.
All right. If you could hold right there. Is there anyone in the audience would like to speak for or against this item? Ma'am, if you could come on up, sir, if you don't mind just giving her just a minute.
Sure.
And if you could get next to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
It's Naomi Nichols. The address is 3635 Pennsylvania Avenue. That's in Mims.
Okay.
And really, I have a question, and that is if there's a particular reason that it can't be a variance from the AU instead of an RR. The concern, if it's an objection, I don't know that I'd really call this an objection, but whether these nice people, or in future if they sell it, it's my understanding that under RR, it's a minimum of 1 acre per house, and I think it's 125 feet it has to have. So I was looking at it, and it looks like technically that piece of property could have 2 houses on it if it is rezoned to RR1. And that in that area, you know, there's some concern, I believe, in this area with water being, you know, we're getting a lot of houses. It used to be 5 acre minimum, and I don't remember when it was that changed, but it's just really boomed over the past 15 years, we'll say. And so I think a house per acre, that's definitely going to impact it more. This would just be one place. And so another potential objection, I don't know how this board works exactly.
You're doing fine.
If in future other properties.
You don't want 2 houses.
Right, that's the one
Right.
thing. And potentially, I don't know if this is an argument that is made by individuals who are looking to change their zoning, but just across the way there's Jenny Lind, and that one has a whole lot of, I don't even know what the zoning is. There's one that's RR, and then there's many houses that it's smaller than RR. I can't remember what it is. But that would be an argument to, well, if it's done over there, why can't we do it? Why can't we do it here? And so this could potentially add ammunition to, or not ammunition, but a piece of evidence to argue that it was allowed in this case, so we should continue to allow it in others. I don't know what all the concerns are with changing zoning from one thing to another, but and that could be a good thing or a bad thing. That's not necessarily an objection on my part. I wonder about, that's a question. Is that an argument that one might make if they were looking to change their zoning? Well, look, this neighbor, theirs was changed to RR, so can I get mine changed too? That kind of thing.
Well, we can go. Do you want to clarify that for her, please, sir?
Sure. There's pros and cons of everything that we do. Certainly, a variance could be done. However, whenever we're looking at rezoning, rezoning would be the first step of getting rid of the nonconformities. When you look at the land use is Res 1, which would allow for 1 acre lots. The RR1 is a zoning district that is consistent with that Res 1 future land use. the size of the property would allow for the lot split, so to speak, in a flag lot. That's an option. The other option is to do a variance for the size of the lot. That's just, out of the, there's multiple ways to fix this in our toolbox. One of the things that we look at always is to change the zoning to match the land use, and that way it provides for consistency and compatibility with the area.
Okay, so the board would look on changing zoning more favorably than a variance in most cases?
I can't tell you whether I can just tell you what the options would be, and what the board can and cannot consider. So in this case, yes, the Board of Adjustment would hear a variance in this case, which is a separate board from these folks. A rezoning request like this goes in front of Planning and Zoning, and then ultimately the Board of County Commissioners can approve or deny the rezoning request.
Okay, and so one favorable aspect of rezoning as opposed to a variance is that, well, at least in this case, you mentioned something, there was a lot of words I'm not familiar with, but that rezoning in this district to RR is in compliance with or is not contradictory to something, and I don't know, I can't remember what you said.
So when we look at rezoning requests, we look for two things. We look for consistency with the comp plan, and we look at compatibility with the surrounding area.
Consistency with the what?
Consistency and compatibility.
Okay, with the surrounding zoning. Okay.
And the comp plan. The other thing that I would
comp plan.
Comprehensive plan.
Okay.
The other thing that I would tell you is that the RR1 zoning district is what we would consider a down zoning, because the AU allows for a multitude of commercial agricultural uses that would not be allowed in the RR1. The RR1 allows for agricultural uses, but it's on a residential scale, not as a commercial. So you're getting, the area is getting some protection of less intense uses as far as AU to RR1.
Right, but more houses.
It would allow for, the rezoning would allow for an additional house.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience would like to speak for or against this item? Sir, if you could come back up.
Yes, sir.
And hearing that, I bring it back to the board. We have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I believe that this request is consistent and compatible with the surrounding area, so I move that we recommend approval of this zoning change.
Okay, we have a motion by Ron, a second by Robert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Okay, item H4.
Item H4 is Rebecca and Alan Potter request a change of zoning classification from RR1 and AU to all AU. It's application number 23Z00011 for tax account number 3006359 located in District 3.
Is the applicant here? Okay. Continue on, correct? Or do we want to table this?
I'll defer to Alex, but
I was just going to say, Mr. Chair, if you want to just continue on with your docket and allow them maybe the potential to come in towards the end of the meeting and then retake the item up.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to slide item H4 till later. Item H5.
H5 is Melanie, Rondeau, and Zakry Corter request a change of zoning classification from GU to RRMH-1 for application 22Z00056, tax account number 2000693, located in District 1.
And sir, it appears you're the applicant.
Yes,
If you could state your name and address for the record.
My name is Zakry Corter, and my address is 2215 East JJ Road, Titusville, Florida.
And a little bit about what you're wanting to do, Mr. Zakry.
We are asking for a zoning change from GU to rural residential mobile home to build a manufactured home on the property.
Okay. Well, while you're right there, hold on one second. Is there anyone in the audience would like to speak for or against this item? That's good news. Seeing that, I bring it back to the board. We have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I believe the request is, again, consistent and compatible, and I move that we recommend approval of this zoning change.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Ron, a second by Debbie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Zach. Okay, item H6.
Good afternoon. Yes, okay. Good afternoon, Board. Item H6 is Terrance P. and Peggy A. Mulreany, represented by Kailey Hyvonen, request a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use designation from NC and Res 4 to CC, application number 22SS00017, tax account numbers 2400694, 2400695, 2400696, 2400697, 2400698, and 2400700 in District 1.
Okay, is the applicant here?
Mr. Chair, let's read item H7 as well, because these are companion applications.
I didn't know if you wanted to separate them so we get the vote, right?
Yeah, so just,
Okay.
this is another companion application. Let us read the companion
Okay.
rezoning, and then you can just make sure that you have a separate vote for each of them.
Okay, so Terrance P. and Peggy A. Mulreany, again represented by Kailey Hyvonen, request a change of zoning classification from GU to BU2, application number 22Z00073, tax accounts 2400694, 2400695, 2400696, 2400697, 2400698, and 2400700 in District 1.
Okay, ma'am, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Hi, my name is Kailey Hyvonen with Land Development Strategies, 355 Spoonbill Lane, Melbourne Beach. Thanks, Trina, for reading all those numbers twice. Next time I'll bring something that maybe has like 20 properties. Would that be good? Okay, well, thank you for hearing me tonight. I have two requests in front of you. The first one is for a future land use map amendment. That's the colored map on the right of the screen. We are seeking a change from NC Neighborhood Commercial and Residential 4 to Community Commercial. For the purposes of then number 2, seeking a rezoning from GU, which is a holding pattern essentially, to BU2, which is retail, warehousing, and wholesale commercial. Tonight I'm here representing the property owners, Terry and Peggy Mulreany. He's here to answer any questions if you have any of him. I did appear before this board on September 12th, 2002. I do see some new faces now. To request the same future land use and zoning for the property immediately to the south. So as you can see on the maps in front of you, that property on the south side now is a rectangle of community commercial with BU2. At this time, what they're proposing down there is a combination of some retail, and then there's interest in RV and boat storage. And for this one, this is a logical extension of not only what's going to be happening to the south, but also the larger overall picture of what's happening in the city of Cocoa. And to quickly orient you here, the subject property is the orange property just north of the blue property. The blue property is the one that recently we had a comp plan change and a rezoning change. And the subject property is just north of that orange piece. The yellow line indicates the city of Cocoa city limits. And just below that, as you can see looking down Grissom, everything south of there that comes off of Grissom is industrial. And it's not light industrial, it's pretty heavy industrial. There's industrial subdivisions down there, the Amazon distribution warehouse, and then it actually takes you past a bunch of industrial all the way down to kind of the spur that comes off the railroad. This is a City of Cocoa zoning map. The star shows where the subject property is, and everything through there has this zoning of M2, which is a heavy type of industrial type zoning. So I feel like that's kind of an important part of the story about what's coming up Grissom there. It has direct access to Grissom through 2 of the parcels of this request. Approval of these requests would create a unified development parcel with consistent future land use and zoning for future office, warehouse, or distribution use. That's not only compatible with what's proposed to the south, but all the existing industrial and heavy commercial further down the Grissom corridor into Cocoa. This property that is subject to this rezoning and future land use did recently go under contract. And this is just an example of where the company that has it under contract, they do small bay warehousing. So what that means is each of the units would have warehouse space in the back and then kind of a flexible retail/office space up front, which is great for a lot of the uses that BU2 permits. So we believe this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and in keeping with the character of this corridor. It's consistent with the existing pattern of surrounding development, especially what's emerging from the south up Grissom. And this request is not encroaching into a residential area to the north and east, because although to the north and east it is Res 4 future land use, those lots are essentially landlocked and not really developable, because when they were platted, they weren't platted with rights-of-way, which is why you see these big vacant areas in some parts of the unincorporated county and some of our local jurisdictions here. So we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, hearing that, I bring it back to the board. Any questions for her? I'm going to give him some time to think. So if you hang on right there with me, ma'am. Is there anyone in the audience would like to speak for or against this item? Well, all right, well, hearing that, I bring it back to the board. Any questions for her?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
We approved a similar change to the properties immediately south last year, and I believe that this request is consistent and compatible. So for item H6, I move that we recommend approval of this land lease change.
Okay. All right, for item H6, we have a motion by Ron, a second by Robert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Now we need a motion for item H7.
Mr. Chairman, for item H7, I move that we recommend approval of this zoning change.
Okay, item H7, we got a motion by Ron, a second by Robert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No discussion?
Well, we've already,
No, this is zoning.
what do we do there, Mr.?
I just have a question.
What's the question?
No, I just want to know, is there any sewer or water out there on that site?
Water is coming from the City of Cocoa, and there is no sewer.
Okay. So you're going to have septic up there for the industrial? Yeah, no, I just want to make sure. Okay.
Okay, item H7, motion by Ron, second by Robert. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Item H8.
Item H8 and H9, we would ask to read those in together. Norman Leigh Sherman Jr. and Karen Denise Turowski request a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use designation from agricultural to Res 1 to 2.5 on 3.4 acres and agricultural to Res 1 on 1 acre. Application number 22SS00014, tax account numbers 2002089 and 2002090 in District 1. Item H9, again, is Norman Leigh Sherman and Karen Denise Turowski request a change of zoning classification from RRMH1 to AU, application number 23Z00016, tax account 2002089 in District 1.
Go ahead.
These items were heard by the board previously, and when they went before the commissioners, they requested to, because the properties were split, it was originally 4.4, was split to 3.4 and 1 acre. The board then requested that the 3.4 acres go to Res 1 to 2.5, and the 1 acre part of it to Res 1. So that's why it's coming back to you today.
Okay. Anyone on the board have any questions for staff about these items? Is the applicant here? Sir, if you could come up and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, Norman Leigh Sherman Jr., and address is 1979 Garwood Drive, Orlando, Florida.
And I'm Karen Denise Turowski, same address.
And just a little bit about what you're wanting to do here.
We have 4.4 acres out in Mims, and we are doing a kind of like a modular home there. We bought a single wide trailer a while back, like 2 years ago, and had it put on the property in addition to that, and just to use for storage because we have a lot of stuff. So anyways, we found out that we weren't allowed to have 2 dwelling type buildings on one property, so we had to separate it. So that's why we separated the lot that the single wide trailer's on
To the 1 acre.
to the 1 acre.
Okay.
So the addition is for the other.
That kind of clears it up right there.
Yeah.
Well, if you stay right there, is there anyone in the audience would like to speak for or against this item? Seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I do. Mark.
Okay, Mr. John?
I'm still a little confused. You have a modular home on one part of the parcel, and then you have a trailer home on the other? Is that correct?
That's kind of how it started. But we actually bought an old portable school building that we are modifying into a single-family home. And
Yeah.
we've gone through the building department, and we have engineer drawings and everything to make that happen. And that kind of got on hold because we bought this trailer that we were just going to use for storage at the time.
A little closer to the
At the
mic.
time, not realizing that that was still considered a single-family structure. So in our area, 1 acre is the minimum that you can have for a mobile home or a house. So we just broke that, because it was on the corner of the property. It's kind of a big square almost, and made that the acre just so we could keep the trailer there, so we don't have to get rid of our stuff and put it all in storage. And then so we can continue on building the house, which is on hold right now for the zoning part in order for the permitting to continue the building permit.
So you're going to build a house on the 4 acres or whatever it's
It's
left?
the remaining
The 3.4.
3 point, okay. Just one house on that?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
And you
That's-
said something about an old schoolhouse?
Well,
And that is it.
that's it. It's a modular structure. It's portable buildings, which probably most of them been. So in recycling, we're turning it into a home. single-family home.
Okay, so you're taking it from where it is currently to deliver it to that site?
It's
and then
there
you're gonna.
now.
It's already there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, for item H8, I move that we recommend approval of this land use change.
Okay. For item H8, we have a motion for Ron, a second by Robert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passed unanimously. And we'd need a motion on item H9.
Mr. Chairman, on item H9, I move that we recommend approval of this zoning change.
Second.
Okay, on item H9, I got a motion by Ron, a second by Debbie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, good luck with the county commissioners.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right. Okay, and item H10.
Yes, item H10, David D. Ramage and Cynthia R. Ramage Trust request change of zoning classification from BU-1 to BU-2, application 23Z00006, and tax account number 2103340, located in District 1.
Okay, sir, and you're representing the applicant?
I am. I said Your Honor. I'm used to it. Sean Demers with Gray Robinson. Thank you for having me, folks, today. I'm here on behalf of Jack Kirschenbaum, who would have usually been here before you. So our address is 1795 West Nassau Boulevard, Melbourne, Florida, 32901. And we're here on application S3Z00006 to the change in use to allow B1 to B2. This is a self-storage center. It's already zoned for that. The reason for the request from B1 to BU, or BU1 to BU2 is to add the RV and boat storage at that location. Nothing changes other than that. We believe that this is still a commercial region and a commercial area. The self-storage center would be right next door to a Tractor Supply store. And of course, the important factor here, I know Robert's brought up several times, it's consistent and compatible with the surrounding area.
All right. Well, sir, if you could stay right there. Is there anyone in the audience would like to speak for or against this item before we get too far in? Sir? Well, if you would, you're going to have to come up, sir, and state your name and address for the record. If you just give us just a minute there with him. And if we could get us, well, we got to get you on record.
Yep. Joe Patnod, 3850 Miami Avenue, West Melbourne, Florida, 32904. So I'm looking for the address for this particular property.
The address?
Correct. Is it off of 192, or where's this located?
Well, this is
This is located in the Mims area up off
okay.
of Highway 1, just north of 46.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Do we have any questions for him?
I have a question for staff. Why was this changed administratively? Do you know?
What was your question?
I found a note somewhere that this was changed administratively to BU2 at one point.
Our records indicate that there was a small-scale plan amendment that was done. I don't have a date. I don't have a. No, this isn't it. Hold on. Let us research that and.
On page 2 of staff comments, I do see May 31st, 1967. I think that's where John's probably looking at, is, I see that too.
Sure, if I could just clarify, it looks like based on the staff comments, the original zoning of the subject property was BU2. It was administratively rezoned in 1967. That's zoning action Z-2090 from BU2 to BU1. April 2009, zoning action Z-11482 rezoned the parcel from BU1 and AU to all BU1 and amended the FLU from CC to Res 4 to all community commercial.
Did it say why?
In that section of the staff comments, no, it did not.
Typically, the resolutions do not include the reason why the board at that time made the recommendation.
I don't know what to tell you. You know, they must have done it for a reason, but we don't know what the reason was. Because otherwise, it would still be BU2, and you wouldn't have to stand up here.
I think that the reason was they had a corridor that they did of BU1 all the way up and down with that administrative rezoning. And it was about, in the whole block is what it was. So it wasn't just that one lot.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
My comment about that would be, it's in MIMS, and MIMS is a rural area, but just because it is, doesn't mean we want to stick all the BU2 stuff up there. We would rather have it be BU1 and restrict BU2 uses, because there are some BU2 uses we don't want up there. I don't know, but I know that as former president of MIMS Community Group, one of the things we tried to do, we recognized that US 1 is going to be commercial, but we also don't want it to be the wrong kind of commercial or industrial or something like that. So it's possible that there may have been some push from the community to do that. Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the applicant. Sir,
Yes.
Would you be willing to add a BDP to the zoning request to limit the BU2 uses to only the self-storage mini warehouse with outdoor storage?
Yes.
And you can have all the BU1 uses, just restrict the BU2 uses.
That is perfectly fine.
Okay. And the other question I had was, is it possible for you to agree to put the boats and RVs to the rear of the property?
Actually, if the question came up today, I was going to address that anyway. The plan for this, there wasn't a plan done because the property is up for sale. We have both these folks. So the gentleman that's buying it didn't get the plan out yet because we wanted to make sure that we could get the proper zoning. With that being said, his plan all along is to keep that out of the view of the main road. The boats and RVs are not going to be up in the front. It's going to be more of a U shape with the interior being the storage for those outdoor type of things.
Okay, thank you. With that, I would move that we recommend approval of this zoning change with that BDP.
Okay, we got a motion by Ron, a second by Robert with the BDP. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate your time today, all of you.
Thank you, sir. Oh,
So the first item, I'm sorry, I'm getting my, you're fine. So I just want to make sure that I understand what your conditions are for the BDP. So the conditions were to allow for BU1 uses
And limit the BU2.
and limit the BU2 uses to RV and boat storage.
Correct.
And mini warehouse.
And mini warehouses, thank you. And that the outdoor storage should be limited to the rear of the property?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Okay, item H11.
Item H11, Ranger Storage LLC, represented by Jim Trauger, requests amendment to an existing BDP, binding development plan, in a BU-2 zoning classification. Application is 23Z00009. Tax account number is 2601558, located in District 4.
And sir, are you the applicant?
Yes, my name is Jim Trauger, 2210 Melbourne, Florida.
All right, and just a little bit about what you're wanting to do, Mr. Jim.
Sure, absolutely. So this site is currently zoned BU2. It's almost like a fast forward of what we just heard here. This had an existing binding development plan on it. We went to apply for a pre-application meeting with staff. It was determined at that time that the proposal is significantly enough different than the previously approved binding development plan. So we put our new layout in, and now here we are before you. There's a couple of changes we feel are less intensive with this. The previous binding development plan allowed for outdoor storage and was more of a mini warehouse use. This is solely going to be used for indoor storage of boats and RVs. We feel that's a little bit, less intensive. People don't come and pick up their RV every day. So that's kind of the big change here. The other thing we look to do is this is back in that Whaley area where there's some residential kind of mixed in with some industrial and warehousing back there. So we wanted to push more of the landscaping up to the front, closer to the residential uses, just to create a little bit better buffer for them. To the west is vacant land, to the south is warehousing, to the east is a humongous DOT pond, and then the tracks. So we don't really have any potential for any residential neighbors there. So that was kind of the idea with this different layout. So that's what we're here to present to you this evening, this afternoon, I guess. I'm used to the night meetings.
All right, well, while you're right there, hold on one second, please.
Absolutely.
Does anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? Do you, sir?
Yes, I do.
If you could state your name and address for the record.
My name is Robert Usherson. I live at 338 Myrtlewood Road in unincorporated Brevard. That's in the Suntree PUD, just to the west of the proposed development site. I was asked also, while I was coming, by my homeowner association president, Ms. Margaret Schultz, if I could also speak on behalf of her as president of our homeowner association. We were hoping, when we first learned of this application, and I'll say parenthetically, we are just beyond the 500-foot notice distance, so I don't recall exactly how we learned of this, and I'm glad we did. We try and stay abreast of what's occurring in our area and what will be potentially impacting us. We thought that we would be able to come down and support this application. We frankly find that indoor storage of recreational vehicles and boats could be quite a compatible neighbor to us. However, the way this application has been framed, we have to vigorously oppose it unless it were to be significantly recrafted to render it compatible with the noble aspirations of the comprehensive plan and with the character of the area. Currently, there's a binding development plan which expressly limits use. As this proposal has been framed and is before you for your recommendation today, it breaks it wide open again to the full range of BU2 uses without limitation. My president sent a letter to the applicant, which I saw in your agenda materials, and she said she didn't receive the courtesy of a reply from the applicant, hoping that there could be some dialogue and perhaps adjustment to the application so we could support it. That has not happened, and the way it is framed, we still find it to be considerably inconsistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan, and it would be inappropriate for you to recommend approval of this change from the current binding development plan. While there's been conversation of comprehensive planning and of zoning, this area has been piecemealed apart by multiple small-scale comprehensive plan amendments over the years since the comprehensive plan was adopted. And the area is now been redesignated on an ad hoc piecemeal basis substantially to community commercial. As we have in recent years learned of the impacts of some BU2 uses, we have tried to engage with prospective applicants as we have learned of them. And frankly, we have garnered considerable cooperation from applicants who have proffered to you what you call binding development plans, deed restrictions, to limit the range of uses on the property and to limit other appurtenances that would normally come up in site planning and site design, so that their proposals would not pose a threat to the detriment of the livability of our homes. We asked this applicant to include a few provisions in their draft binding development plan, which we thought were quite nominal and reasonable. We have not heard back. There's a couple of ways they could fix this, but right now what's before you is totally unacceptable. The Welty area has one access road out, and it's a large area that has been undergoing transition to heavy commercial uses. There's a traffic signal at the intersection of Welty Road and Wickham Road. It's the only way out of here except coming through our neighborhood, very substandard, narrow Suntree Street without sidewalks, and we cannot tolerate through traffic by heavy vehicles and a lot of activity that could occur in BU2 zoning. That signal has a very painfully long cycle period. Last time I checked, it was 7 or 8 minutes at that light. People get very impatient there and they start filtering through our neighborhood, or they pull very dangerous maneuvers to try and, just get through that light and get out of there. The county has very little opportunity to change that signal because the two signals very close to that intersection at Suntree Boulevard and Wickham, and then at Pinehurst and Wickham, there's a lot of turning movements at those signals, so it really limits how much clearance time can be provided out of Welty onto Wickham. So think about comprehensive planning. A good exercise would be to look at this entire area, all the potential BU2 uses, what trip generation could possibly be occurring, and to back into a more limited range of uses for this whole area. I don't know about sewerage in the area. BU2 could allow all kinds of processing that could overload the system. I don't know what's there, but the area really should get a comprehensive overview and maybe a crafting of an overlay zoning district to lay onto this area, so that what occurs in this very confined place is good planning and not just ad hoc reaction to a lot of requests that come before you. The other thing we're concerned about is noise, and on a piecemeal, small-scale basis, the noise code really doesn't provide a good way to respond to little things that could be occurring through a multiplicity of sites with multiplicity of occupants in them. The storage could be just fine, not a problem, but 60-foot tall building as contemplated in the site plan, is this going to be rack storage? Is there going to be some kind of a lift vehicle with backup beepers going all night or all day or who knows when? That's not explained, and it's not precluded by the proposal as it currently stands. Another thing we're concerned about in our backyards and in our windows would be electronic digital signs. We don't want those in this area and along Wickham Road. Those could be potentially allowed in this zoning district. So what we have typically asked of applicants is simply that they tighten up their development proposal to simply exclude some of the things that would be very deleterious to the quality of life in our homes in our neighborhood. Other applicants have agreed and have come forth and done that. We have not heard a word back from this applicant, and we ask that you not recommend approval of this application as it now stands. We stand willing to offer our suggestions, and we're not asking that they simply limit the use to indoor storage of RVs and boats. There could be a lot of other things that could be allowed. We're just asking that they perhaps frame it to exclude the kinds of things that would be very deleterious to us. There's a variety of ways it can be done. In this document as it's crafted, in the preamble to the document, it does indicate what the wishes and desires of the applicant are to build a storage facility. However, in the operative language in this document, there's no limitation. It's wide open. There's a reference to an Exhibit B. Exhibit B is not attached to the document. There's an Exhibit B in your agenda materials, which is an Exhibit B attached to the old binding development plan, which is sought to be released. There's some other exhibit in the agenda materials that's called a site plan. And it is basically a site plan, a landscape plan. It shows fencing, it shows landscape. It shows more or less where buildings will be, although the staff comments say they have to go through site plan review, and that could all change also. But it's a site plan, it's not a land use restriction. So we just ask that this be fixed before you even consider recommending approval and releasing the old binding development plan, which does have use restriction in it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak for or against this item? Sir, if you could come back up.
Hello. In response, we plan on being good neighbors here. There was a exhibit as part of this binding development plan. That's entirely why we're here, was they felt that what we provided was substantially different, not better or worse, but just different. So if someone was going to come in and show digital signboards and all of these things that may be allowed in BU2, well, you'd find them right back here. If our plan for a very similar use was found to be significantly different and had to come back in front of this board, then anything else that was presented for this property would also have to come up here. We're not proposing a 60-foot tall building. These are single story. It's written on our exhibit drawing. It wouldn't make sense to do a 60-foot building. There are no digital boards.
Well, we're here for zoning. We're not here for engineering.
Sure, sure.
All right, hearing that, anyone on the board have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, John.
I have a question for legal. BDPs, love it. According to BDPs, the only way they can be changed or removed is by rezoning. They're not asking for rezoning. Can this be amended?
Yes, BDPs are agreements between the property owner and the Board of County Commissioners, so they can be amended.
Okay, but the original agreement is with a different owner.
It runs with the land, so the owner of the property.
Okay. I did a little research on this. Went back to, what was the date? 2006, when this first came up. It seems that the binding development agreement that was drafted was different than the one that was proposed by Planning and Zoning, than the one that the county commissioner finally agreed to. It seemed that the two major items was the paving of, was it Freeman? What was the name of that road? Freeman Lane?
That's correct.
Is that paved now?
That road is paved up to the site. That's correct.
Okay. So that was one of the requirements on the BDP. The other one was putting up a barrier of vegetation on 3 sides of the property. That was due to the fact that the original applicant had clear-cut the entire site. And so the staff recommended that punitively, I think, at the time. So the final BDP that's in our package here was really on those 2 requirements only. All right? And what you're asking for now, if I understand it correctly, is neither one of those items because they're no longer relevant?
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay. So I have no problem with this.
Mr. Chair, I just want to add, there was a third condition. And the third condition was the developer owner shall limit the use of mini warehouse facility only and with the open storage for boats and RVs to the rear. That was the third main condition from that existing BDP.
You're correct. There was a big discussion about actually doing any work outside that would affect the neighborhood, and you're right, they wanted to confine it to the inside. That's true, yes. I'm done.
And agreed, and we're no longer planning any outdoor storage on this site at all. So to your point, sir, that also does not apply to this development or proposed development.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Question for the applicant. Is there some reason that, it seems to me that the facility that you're planning could be built on this property with this BDP in place?
Not the vehicles. These are the large RVs. They need a 50-foot bay, basically. So the circulation of the previous that had the 2 entrances, and then basically that middle building, or I think it was maybe 2 buildings, would have worked, but the exterior ones were not deep enough to accommodate these recreational vehicles. That was one of the major things we looked to change on this. And then I believe the idea for that was to use those buildings for kind of like a mini storage, self-storage, and then have all the RVs and the boats outside on the southern portion of the site that's closer to the warehousing. But since we're looking to have all the recreational vehicles and all the boats within structures, roll down doors, you won't see them at all. Then we submitted for our application, and it was determined that it was different enough. So that's kind of the path that has taken us here.
And for staff, the building that he's requesting to be built can't be built in BU1 zoning? It requires BU2?
It's the outdoor storage component that requires BU2 zoning.
So why is BU2 zoning needed for this, for the
The
project?
property already has BU2 zoning. He's just trying to change the binding development plan on the property. He's not changing the zoning.
So really, just to clarify is that this BDP was approved with a site plan. What they're trying to do now doesn't comply with what that site plan shows. That's why this application is before you, is to remove that site plan part of things to allow for them to have more flexibility within the BU2 zoning category and the conditions that went along with that site plan.
I have a tendency to agree with the residents that taking this requirement out essentially opens it up to any kind of BU2 use that he would want to put in it with his new BDP that he's suggesting. The restrictions that he's suggesting in the BDP essentially do not limit the kinds of things that he can do. Is that correct?
As far as our analysis, there is no use limitations with the proposed BDP.
Yeah, that's my point. And just like in MIMS, I think there's some BU2 uses that these people would like not to see right next to their houses. I would like to see some restrictions on the BU2 uses. The homeowners have proposed a list of restrictions that they would like to see. And if they're happy with those, then that would meet my requirements.
Is there a vehicle to add that this is going to be used for indoor RV storage? I have no problem with that being added to the binding development plan and then ratified by council if that's doable. It wasn't malicious intent here. It was just an oversight. I thought it was clear that this project is Ranger RV storage. It's listed as a use on this Exhibit B that is part of the binding development plan. As an engineer, maybe I don't look at the the
Yeah,
agreement part
'cause
as
our-
much,
see,
but
our-
it's not meant to skirt anything.
We only deal with the zoning issue. We don't do site planning.
Sure.
And while we appreciate your willingness to come forward and tell us what you're going to do with the property, in reality, that's not a requirement. So we have to deal with not only what you are planning to do, or you say you're planning to do, but what other things you could do with the property. You know, we give you this new BDP that doesn't really restrict the BU2 uses. You can say, oh, I changed my mind. I want to put, I don't know, well, I'm not sure hazardous materials would go in there, but something that, like a crematorium, I think that people would find somewhat objectionable to have right next to their houses.
Sure, understood. And it may be a procedural thing that I'm not understanding, but I was under the impression that, you know, we weren't changing the use very much, just the layout, and that triggered coming back before this board. So if any other use, wouldn't that trigger coming back before this board?
Well, you were thinking you were going to get rid of the outdoor storage to go to indoor storage, correct?
Correct. That's what we're trying to do here, and then just
So
match
that's the bottom line as far as the change.
Yeah, just.
No, but Ron, you were okay with limiting, correct me if I'm right or wrong, to the indoor storage for the RVs, the BDP?
That would be, I would say that would be acceptable.
Is that acceptable to you, sir?
To limiting the use for indoor RV stores, that was the intent. So if that was missed in the language somewhere, absolutely.
So, sir, I'm sorry, you've already had your time to speak.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Robert.
As an engineer, I can appreciate your tunnel vision and focus, and we applaud that type of focus as engineers. But what Ron is illustrating is we have a horizon capabilities for that type of zoning. And what your objections on the neighbors is that they want it more defined to your focus that you've already illuminated and illustrated, and that you assumed would already be there. But what staff is already saying and what Ron is saying and what we in the board have already been exposed to is that you are giving us a benefit with your site plan, but that's not binding. And so what they want is a binding developers agreement that says, yes, I am going to restrict the uses of this to take it into account the community and to narrow the horizon capabilities of that type of zoning. So I think what we're looking for is what are those capabilities, what are those elements within that binding developers agreement that will satisfy your needs and satisfy the community's needs?
Sure, yeah, I think we took the language pretty close to what was previously approved and just, took out the uses we're not using. So if this is something that's above and beyond, which is fine because the other one was done, 10, 15 years ago, that's fine, but, I'd hate to lose a month or two for my client who's just a resident who's paying on construction loans and purchase loans to add, 3 words, this will be an indoor storage facility, because that's, the intent. I don't know if is there a vehicle to recommend approval with this language added and, in the next couple of weeks we could have that added or have the commission, action with that language prior to it being, ratified and signed. I have no problem with adding that the use on this property will be solely for the indoor use or indoor storage of boats and RVs. That's all we're looking to do here.
Mr. Chair, if I may introduce my
Hop in there,
opinion.
Jeff.
So what I would suggest that you do, and if this is along what the board's decision is I would limit the uses based on our conversations, to limit the BU2 uses, and that if there is any outdoor storage, that you limit to indoor only. And I think that it kind of fixes the issues that you guys are having because there is the BU2 use is already on the property.
Are you okay with that, Ron?
Yes.
Sir, do you understand?
Yes, it sounds like it's getting us to what we're trying to do here, so absolutely, we're on board with
Indoor
that.
storage for RVs and boats.
Absolutely.
Am I correct, Ron?
Yes. If we limit the BU2 uses to that, then that solves the problem that I was addressing. And this is something that you can do with a BDP. We will agree to the wording, and then before this goes to the county commission, you'll have to actually do the formal BDP. Correct, staff?
Yeah, so right now, it's just a recommendation. The board has the opportunity to say yay or nay. I just want to make sure what I'm hearing you is that your recommendation would include a BDP to limit the uses of the property to BU1 and the BU2 uses to indoor RV and boat storage.
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
We're just going from outdoor to indoor.
Yeah, I know, but he's changing it back to BU1.
No, I think he still meant BU2.
You went BD2.
Jeff, you said BU1, did you not?
I did.
It's BU1, right?
So he would still retain the BU2 uses because RV and boat storage, but he would only have the ability to use the indoor RV and boat storage.
Right.
So BD2 is restricted to indoor use.
Correct.
My understanding of your direction.
Hey, John?
Yeah.
We don't want to say it's only this specific BU2 use, because if we do that language, we've just eliminated all the possible BU1 uses that he could have.
Yeah, I guess my
And
issue.
those BU1 uses I find acceptable.
I just, because this isn't a zoning change, you're only adjusting you're getting rid of the original BDP.
And putting a new
and putting a
BDP in
new one
place.
in its place.
Yes.
Which is not for zoning change, it's only for an agreement between the county and the applicant for
Yes, but-
what the use is.
But that's our job, is to make those recommendations.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find, is there a way to amend the original BDP? Take out the two provisions on the Freeman Lane?
Yes, sir. So you don't have to have a companion rezoning item going forward. You can just come in to amend the BDP itself, and that's outlined in our Code of Ordinances.
So that could be done rather than a new BDP, correct?
Well, you're amending the existing BDP, so effectively creating a new BDP.
Okay. And the new one would just specify, it would eliminate the other requirements from the previous BDP, correct?
It could.
Or it could incorporate them in the new BDP, or modify them
There-
however you
that's
guys are
another
agreeing
issue
to.
then, because we haven't discussed what is in the existing BDP, which was restrictive for certain activities, and also had the road in there, which is already paved, so it's a non-player in this. And what about the vegetation on three sides of the site? Would you include that in there, or would you take that away?
Isn't all
I
that
hate
picked up in
BDPs.
permitting?
It is, and
Right.
the
Well, but no, it was in the BDP, specifically that they had wanted that done.
No, I know, but now it's, that's
So-
what
so to
happens when
clarify-
there's Permitting, they do that.
To clarify, if I could, are you guys basing that additional language Mr. Barcher recommended to the proposed BDP that's in the packet? There's a proposed BDP. Are you simply trying to add in BU1 uses plus the limitation of indoor storage to the proposed BDP?
Mr. Ron,
What I was assuming we were doing was taking his suggested BDP, because that was what was being proposed, and adding this language to that. As opposed to modifying the existing BDP and ignoring his suggested BDP.
So then you're requesting to cancel the original BDP and use his proposed one, but adding to it. if I understand you correctly.
Yes.
That's up to, yeah.
Yes. You're amending the BDP.
Okay.
We're amending the proposed.
Yeah, amending the proposed.
Correct.
So in whoever makes a motion on this would need to cancel the existing BDP and propose the new one with additional language. Is that correct, Jeff?
That is correct.
Go for it, Ron.
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Okay.
Is that acceptable with
Is
you?
everyone
Absolutely.
cleared? So we have a motion. Robert, I'm sorry, did you second it?
No, I can second the motion. I understood. I was aware.
So Ron, you're making the motion?
Yes.
I'll second it if we don't have a second.
Okay, Ron's got a motion by Ron, a second by Debbie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. This was more discussion than I anticipated on my way here today, but
And me too.
I'm learning a lot. The next one will go smoother, I hope.
All right, sir.
Thank
Have
you
a
very
good
much.
day.
Thank you.
Okay, items H12.
Okay, item H12 and H13 are companion applications. So H12, FMKT Mel Owner, Fresh Market Melbourne Owner, LLC, represented by Bruce Moia, requests a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, number 23S.02, to change the future land use designation from PI, Planned Industrial and Community Commercial, to all community commercial. The application number is 23SS00002 for tax account number 3011945, located in District 4. Item H13 is FMKT Mel Owner, LLC, represented by Bruce Moia, requests a change of zoning classification from BU1 and BU2 to PUD for application 23Z00008, tax account number 3011945, located in District 4.
Okay, is the applicant here? Mr. Moya, you know the drill.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning and Zoning Board. My name is Bruce Moya with MBB Engineering, representing the applicant. This is kind of an interesting request. We actually are asking more than we thought we were going to need, but if you're familiar with the Fresh Market, it's on Wickham Road. It was a plat. There's a shopping center with several out parcels. And when they created the plat, all the access was through the main driveway. Well, that main driveway is fairly narrow, and there's one part of the property that has never been developed yet. It was in the overall site plan design. It's already been designed. It's already been permitted, and there's one building left to be built in what is the one big lot that has the shopping center. So the desire from the developers, because there hasn't been a lot of movement on the property, was to have the ability to sell the property. So what we did is we created another plat, and we created another lot inside that lot. Well, come to find out that the only way you can get approval for that, because of the narrow frontage on the road, is to go to PUD. So we prepared the PUD documents, we submitted that for the rezoning, and then come to find out that PUD is not compatible with the existing land use. So now we're asking for a land use change so that the PUD can be compatible with the land use. We can record the plat, and we can sell that lot to a potential buyer. So that's why we're here. Really, if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them. But really, in all the grand scheme of things, nothing will change. It'll look the same as it was designed and approved, but there'll be a lot line, and they'll have the ability to sell the property rather than just have it be a part of the existing shopping center. So that's why we're here.
All right. Well, is there anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? Okay, seeing that, I bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. John.
Good to see you, Mr. Moyer.
Good to see you too, John.
I have a question. They also own the corner lot, which is not part of this.
Right, so they own, I think, one or two more of the out parcels that are undeveloped, but we're only replatting the Lot 7 and creating a Lot 8 out of Lot 7. We're not replatting the out parcels.
You're not, okay,
No.
so, but could have changed the entrance.
Nope.
Didn't want to do that, okay.
Can't change the entrance.
No, I meant using as an additional way to get into the site.
There already is two ways in and out of the site. There's an access easement to the north.
Where the railroad is?
That's part of the original plat.
Okay, I couldn't see it on the aerial, okay.
It hasn't been constructed yet. It'll be constructed when that out parcel is built.
The one that I'm referring to, or the other one?
Yeah, so there, in the back of the out parcels, there is a road that will go to the north. It's part of the original plat, but that's outside the boundary of what we're doing here.
Okay. Yeah, because looking at this site, I'm surprised that it was approved with that narrow entrance originally, and considering the size of the improvements to that site.
It was approved.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Maybe that's why there's a secondary access approved as well.
Yeah, fire would have had an issue with it, I would have thought. Okay. That's my question.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? Yes, sir.
I see that this is compatible and it is consistent with the total development in the area, so I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Robert. I think Debbie beat you on that one, Ron. A second by Debbie. That's item H12. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we're going to need an item that pairs with that, item H13, a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
We got a motion by Debbie, a second by Logan on item H13. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
That motion passed unanimously. Okay, item H14.
Okay, the last item, H14, Mehran Ghaeenzadeh, represented by Scott Glaubitz, requests a change of zoning classification from BU1 with an existing BDP to BU2 and removal of existing BDP. It's application number 23Z00007 for tax account number 2800735, located in District 5.
And sir, I guess you're the applicant?
Yes, I'm representing the applicant. My name is Ken Ludwa with BSC Consultants.
Okay.
And the applicant is requesting a change of zoning from BU1 to BU2.
Mr. Chair, can we just have a few, we do not have a Form A for this gentleman to represent the application.
Okay. We're going to have to hold on.
Okay.
So in order for this gentleman we need to have a Form A signed by the owner of the property.
Is the owner here, sir?
I do not believe the owner is here. If BSE is representing the applicant, I'm hoping that'll work.
So the authorization act on behalf of the owner is specifically for Mr. Glaubitz. May act on behalf, may include representing me in public hearings before Brevard County and submittal of attached application. So unfortunately, this gentleman cannot represent this application. If you want, if you think that you can get 5 minutes and have them do this, this will have to be tabled to the next meeting.
Since the applicant isn't here, I think we'll have to table it then. All right.
Move to table.
So this will go to June 12th. So in your motion, Mr. Chair, I would table this to June 12th.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by John to table till June 12th and a second by Logan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. All right,
Okay.
sir. Okay, I'm
Mr.
going to
Chairman?
try one more time.
Mr. Chairman, for the applicant, a comment.
Okay.
Sir, you've sat through all the discussions, all the other BU2s.
Yes.
And
I learned a lot, actually.
if you wouldn't mind, it would be nice if you could come back with the BDP prepared to limit the BU2 use to your mini warehouse.
That's, actually, we were going to offer that, so we can actually have something crafted a little more specifically.
Thank you.
Next time.
Thank you.
Okay, item H4 again. Do we need to read it back into the record again? Is the applicant here for Rebecca or Alan Potter?
Mr. Chairman, I guess we move to table this. Is that the procedure? Okay.
To 6/12, yeah.
So moved.
To June?
To June 12th.
June 12th.
We got a motion by John to table till item H4 to June 12th, a second by Logan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed unanimously. Okay, meeting adjourned.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.